The movie kicks off with a canine cop named Jake, cruising on his daily patrol with his loyal partner, Ace. To Jake, Ace wasn't just a dog, he was his partner, his only real friend. While driving, Jake often tells Ace stories about his old days as a soldier in the army, sharing memories from the wars in Iraq. Suddenly, the calm is shattered by an urgent call over the radio. One of his fellow officers is in a high-speed chase with a dangerous fugitive. Jake floors it and races to the scene, but by the time he gets there, the suspect has already slipped away. A few seconds later, another cop, Hernandez, shows up and immediately starts giving Jake a hard time, making it clear he doesn't respect him. The team starts searching the suspect's car. They find out it's stolen and has license plates written in Chinese. Hernandez points to a homeless man with no legs named Dante, claiming he's his informant and will get the suspect's identity from him. Meanwhile, Jake lets Ace get the criminal's scent from the car and starts tracking him through the area. Out of nowhere, another officer finds contraband in the car. As he gets closer to inspect it, disaster strikes. The car was rigged with a bomb and it blows up right in his face. In the middle of the chaos, Jake spots the suspect making a run for it. Filled with rage, Jake leaves his injured colleague and takes off after the criminal. He sees him duck into a building and sends Ace in to find him. He hears Ace attacking someone, but it's a trap. The real suspect threw his jacket on a junkie to throw Ace off the trail. The real criminal then steps out of the shadows. He speaks to Ace in German, and the dog immediately obeys, sitting down. In that moment, the criminal shoots Ace in cold blood and tries to escape, but an enraged Jake hunts him down and finishes him. Jake rushes his wounded partner to a paramedic, begging him for help. But the paramedic refuses, saying human lives are the priority. At that moment, Jake completely loses it and punches the paramedic, not realizing the news crews are filming everything. A few moments later, Ace dies. He's given a hero's funeral, honored for his years of service helping the police. We see Jake completely broken by the loss of his only friend, unable to move on. His neighbor, Mia, who has feelings for him, comes over to offer her condolences and support. Jake thanks her for being there for him. The next day, Jake faces an internal investigation. His bosses completely ignore the tragedy of Ace's death. All they care about is the video of him hitting the paramedic. They even throw it in his face that they took a chance on him after he was discharged from the Marines for mental health issues. In the end, they suspend him from duty and force him into mandatory therapy. Jake walks out of the station, defeated, only to be ambushed by a mob of reporters. His colleague, Detective Ramos, pulls him aside, telling him the press is crucifying him for what he did and helps him sneak out the back. Before he leaves, Jake asks her for one thing, to get him the coroner's report on Ace's real cause of death. From there, Jake heads to the canine unit to turn in Ace's file to the man in charge, Leland. While he's there, a dog named Socks catches his eye. Leland tells him she used to be a drug-sniffing dog, but she became too difficult for her previous handler, so he gave her up. Jake leaves and goes back to the scene where Ace was killed, looking for the informant, Dante. He's hoping for a lead on the gang that killed his partner. While searching, Jake finds a drug packet with a strange, distinctive logo on it. He pockets it and keeps looking for Dante, until Ramos calls and tells him she has the report. He meets her at their usual coffee shop. While waiting, he sketches the logo from the drug packet onto a napkin, all while the news on TV is trashing his name. When Ramos arrives, she feels sorry for him, but Jake doesn't care. He just wants to report, and it's a shocker. Ace died from a fentanyl overdose. He shows Ramos the drawing of the logo, but she's never seen it before. She begs him to move on, see his therapist, and try to get his job back. Jake decides to take her advice. Sort of. He goes back to Leland and asks to adopt Socks. When he goes to get her, he sees just how aggressive and untrusting she is. He also discovers she has a titanium tooth implanted by her former owner to turn her into a killer. Back at his place, Jake tries to earn her trust with food, but she's too scared to eat. So he sits with her and shares his own meal, and she finally starts to eat with him. The next day, he goes to his therapist and opens up about his grief, admitting that Ace's death brought back the trauma of losing his best friend in the army, watching him die while he was helpless to save him, just like with Ace. The therapist advises him to stay busy and bond with the new dog to overcome his past. Jake decides to let people back into his life. He starts spending time with Mia, inviting her over for coffee. He feels a connection and decides to give love a chance. The next morning, he and Socks are up early, running to stay in shape. Then he takes her to a canine training facility. During the first test, the trainer, Captain Freeman, tells Jake to call Socks to him, but Socks completely ignores him, making Jake look like a fool in front of the other officers. Freeman tells him he needs to find a real connection with her. In the next test, she ignores him again. So Jake walks up to her and, without thinking, makes a specific hand gesture. To his amazement, Socks immediately obeys. She passes the next 2 tests perfectly. Jake is ecstatic. From that moment on, Jake spends all his time with Socks and Mia, trying to build a new life and forget his pain. But when he mentions Ace's name in therapy, the grief comes rushing back. He decides he can't let it go. He goes to the station and gets the keys to his old squad car. We find out he's making a fake distress call, claiming Dante is in danger of being kidnapped. Hernandez immediately falls for it and rushes to check on Dante, not realizing Jake is following him. Once Hernandez leaves, Jake approaches Dante. Dante recognizes Socks and tells Jake he knows her, but Jake dismisses it. As Jake goes to buy Dante a drink, Socks has a flashback. She remembers Dante from before he lost his legs. Dante wasn't lying. Jake comes back, lights a cigarette for him, and shows him the drawing of the drug logo. The moment Dante sees it, he panics and lies, saying he's never seen it. But before Jake leaves, Dante gives him a cryptic warning, admitting that Chinese gangs are behind a lot of the crime in the city, and that nobody cares as long as they aren't the ones in danger. Jake calls Ramos and tells her to meet him. She's happy to see him with Socks, but her face falls when she realizes he's still obsessed with Ace's death. He asks her to secretly run the plates of the car that exploded. She refuses at first, but he reminds her that he saved her daughter's life once, so she owes him. The next day, she gives him the info. The car was stolen and registered to a Chinese pharmaceutical company called Changxi. She also gives him the address of their lab and the security code. With this, Jake fakes a report to his therapist, claiming he's fine and ready to return to work. He gets reinstated, but the first person he sees is Hernandez, who is furious that he went to Dante and threatens to destroy him. Jake cleverly requests to be assigned to a quiet district, claiming he needs time to get back on his feet. But his real reason is that the Changxi lab is located there. He immediately drives to the lab and calls in a fake report of suspicious activity. Inside, he finds a car loaded with barrels of chemicals. He hears a noise and bursts into the building with Socks. It's empty except for drug packaging equipment and more packets with the same logo. Suddenly, Socks hears a sound upstairs and bolts. Jake follows her into a room where she's staring at an open window. Someone just jumped. Just then, a vicious dog attacks Jake. Socks leaps into action, fighting ferociously to protect him. The dog's owner appears and lunges at Jake with a knife, but Jake gets the upper hand and kills him. He's stunned to see that Socks has killed the other dog too. Back home, while cleaning the blood off Socks, Jake notices she's staring fearfully at one of the drug packets. He looks up the company, Changxi, and discovers they're in partnership with a local paint company. The next day, his boss calls both him and Ramos into his office and rips into them. He found out Ramos sent Jake to the lab. It turns out Ramos was already investigating the lab as a suspected front for the gang. Now that Jake has killed one of their men, the gang will be on high alert and cover the tracks. The boss gives Ramos a warning, but orders Jake to go on leave and continue his therapy. But Jake isn't giving up. He takes Socks and heads to the paint company's warehouse. He tries to leave her in the car, but she barks frantically, scared for him, so he takes her with him. Inside the dark warehouse, they find a single man packing drugs. Jake pulls his gun and orders him to freeze. But the guy suddenly hits Jake in the head with a drug-filled injector, and Jake starts to lose consciousness. Before he passes out, he sees a German man, the gang's enforcer, walk in with his men and their attack dogs. The German man gives Socks a command, and she walks straight to him without hesitation. The German calls Jake by the name Santiago, which was Socks's first owner's name, but when he gets a closer look, he realizes it's not him. He gives Jake a choice: join them or die. Jake blacks out. He wakes up dumped in the street. The gang has shot him up with drugs and blown up his car. The cops and news crews find him, and the story breaks. Jake is a dirty, drug-addicted cop. He tries to tell his boss everything about the paint company front, about them killing Ace and kidnapping Socks. But no one believes him. They tell him his drug test came back positive, and he's fired. As Jake leaves the station, completely defeated, Hernandez pulls up beside him. Jake thinks he's there to gloat, but he's wrong. Hernandez is the only one who believes him. He promises Jake that if he can find the gang, he'll help him take them down. For a moment, Jake feels a glimmer of hope. But when he gets home, he finds that Mia has left him. She saw the news and believed he was a drug user. This is the final straw. Jake hits rock bottom and contemplates ending his own life. Sometime later, Ramos finds him. She comforts him and tells him he has to keep living. She gives him the address of a man named Luis, telling him to go work for him and try to start over. Jake heads to the Chinese lab, steals the car they left there, and drives to the address. But when he meets Luis, he's hit with a massive shock. It's Santiago, Sox's original owner, living under a new name. Santiago freaks out when he realizes Jake knows who he is and threatens him with a chainsaw. Jake calmly tells him he just wants to talk about Sox. The name changes everything. Santiago lowers the chainsaw and confesses. His daughter is critically ill and needs expensive medicine every month. He was forced to work for the gang to get the money. His job was to provide them with dogs. The gang would smuggle their drugs by hiding them in trash bags, and they used the dogs to make sure the bags didn't smell like drugs. Sox was one of his dogs, but she eventually broke down. The gang discarded her, so Santiago secretly turned her over to the canine unit to save her life and get away from the gang. Now that Jake knows how they operate, he gears up. He finds a vantage point and watches the city's garbage trucks. He spots a driver making a pickup from a specific trash can and follows him all the way to the gang's hideout. He immediately calls Hernandez and sends him the location. Armed with a rifle, Jake sneaks into the compound. He spots guards hiding in a truck with their dogs. But the dogs catch his scent, and all hell breaks loose as the guards open fire. Jake runs for cover, managing to take one of them down, but another vicious dog latches onto his arm. Just in the nick of time, Hernandez arrives and takes the dog out with a sniper shot. Hernandez provides cover from a distance as Jake moves through the compound, eliminating the gang members one by one. Suddenly, the German enforcer appears with Sox, and they retreat into a building. Jake ditches his rifle, pulls his handgun, and follows them inside. He finds himself in a standoff with the German, Sox, and two other snarling attack dogs. The German taunts him. "If Sox wants to go with you, she's all yours." Right then, with incredible nerve, Jake calls Sox using the same command she used to ignore in training. The German smirks, thinking he's won. But then Jake surprises him. He drops his gun and says, "Just have your dogs finish me. I have nothing left to live for." And then, in a split second, Jake flashes Sox the hand signal for an attack. Instantly, Sox lunges at the German, clamping down on his throat and dragging him to the ground. The other two dogs join in, tearing him apart. But tragically, before he dies, the German manages to get one last shot off, hitting Sox. Horrified, Jake scoops her up and rushes her to a vet, praying she'll survive. After the raid, Jake gives the police all the intel he has on the gang, leading to massive busts. But after everything he's been through, he decides to retire. Fast forward a few years, we see that Jake has finally found peace. He and Mia got married, they have a beautiful child, and are living a happy, quiet life. And the best surprise of all is that Sox is right there with them, fully recovered and part of their family. And on that happy, hopeful note, the movie ends.